what's the role of the teacher in terms of evaluating the language learning tasks, in terms of implementing the curriculum in the context of the language classroom, right? That's what we are going to see, the role of the teacher, right? The role of a language teacher. Before I discuss the role of the teacher in terms of evaluating the language learning tasks, I would just like you to pause the video for a little while and think through these questions. What could be the role of the language teacher in implementing tasks in the classroom? This is your job to think before you watch the rest of the video. And how do you see your own role as language teacher in terms of basing your practice on task-based language teaching, right? Well, what's the role of the teacher then? Michael Breen lists the role of the teacher in terms of evaluation cycle for language tasks in numerous ways. And one of them is to just see these questions. Of course, the role of the teacher in the shape of the questions for you to think through, right? And see to what extent was task appropriate to the learning objectives. This is very important. If the task is not appropriate or suitable to the learning objectives, then the very exercise of teaching language or the unit of the course might be fruitless, right? To what extent was the content helpful? I mean, the decision about the content needs to be addressed carefully, because the content needs to be meaning focused and fluency focused. I mean, it should be meaningful for the students. It not only helps them, enlarge their perspective of knowledge, but also, their skills of second language learning, right? To what extent chosen procedure proved to be appropriate? The techniques used in the classroom, the techniques used to handle the task as a work plan, task in process and outcome, right? What knowledge we can contribute to the task, and what capabilities actually were contributed, what was familiar, very important one, how students are familiar with the task, and what's discovered, and what's actually learned through a particular task. If, for example, you are going to teach how to switch on the camera, and you're going to teach some, phrases to your students, how to switch on the camera, turn on, turn off, for example. So you try to think this less activity on task-based language teaching. So in order to teach this switching on camera, you got task and you got, an option to promote knowledge and second language capabilities, right? So what did we actually do while working upon task to self-reflect as language teachers, and what we discovered about each other's contributions during it, how we oversee students, right? What we discovered about the classroom and materials used, whether the students were responsive or indifferent to the materials used in the classroom, and providing. So therefore, what I can do, I can sum up my discussion about evaluation cycle for language tasks in the classroom, that the provision about making decisions about task-based language teaching is very critical, because or designing tasks is very critical, because it involves a lot of imagination and a lot of challenge and analytic reasoning and we can bring in tasks which are suitable to the contextual, religious or cultural expectations of the students.